So if you are not happy being on the recording, feel free to turn your camera off. But if you are happy, we would love to see you. So just for the record, for the recording, ooh, how do you do both? Okay, Chris, are you all right to let people in? Okay. Um, yeah, so I am Anna Casimir, Participatory Democracy Coordinator on People Power Places, along with Chris. And we have a special guest today, Giulia Crossley from the Royal Docs team. Julia, do you want to say a quick hi? And then we'll start our
Yeah,
presentation.
I'm happy to. Hello, everyone. I'm Giulia. I work in the Royal Dux team, as Anna said. I'm the senior marketing manager, so work across a whole range of different things and have had the pleasure of digging into quite a few of these projects and celebrating them across our channels. So here today to give a little bit of a spiel and support on comms, which I'll do later.
Great, thank you. Sorry, I'm now across two screens. Um, right, Chris, let us go to the next slide. So, oh, and we've done that bit too. And I know we've got Cole Sumer in the room, who's the Community Neighbourhood Senior Officer for, where are you from, Manor Park? So great to have you today.
Thank you.
So again, we are recording this session. There will be plenty of opportunities to ask questions. We've put in quite a long question segment at the end. We will address general questions, but if it is about your specific project, then we encourage you to get in touch with your community neighborhood senior officer or manager. If you need any support at any point during the session, please contact myself or Chris, and we will try and help. And please keep muted during the presentation while others are speaking, especially during the Q&A, so that we can keep track. I'm very aware that someone next to me is talking, so I'm hoping that's not too distracting. Right. Chris, slides, please. So I always find that when I share my screen, Zoom just likes to kick me out. So Chris is on the slide job. I am on the presenting job today. So today we are talking about monitoring, learning, and evaluation. As you know, we are coming to the end of the project delivery. You should be completing your project by the 31st of December. And we thought it would be really useful to spend some time thinking about how to create a narrative or to how to tell the story of your impact through the monitoring and evaluation information and for different audiences. So for beyond people power places as well. And I know Julia's put together a brilliant presentation for that. We'll then break down the different parts of the final evaluation form and talk through what's needed there. And then, as I said, opportunity for questions. And we've got a bit of a breakdown of the timings later on. So yeah, Julia will be with us for about half an hour, well, presenting for half an hour, hopefully here for the full time. We'll go through the evaluation form, and then we've put my quick math 35 minutes for questions. So yeah, plenty of time for you to all ask what you need. So I just wanted to, I don't know, it feels like there are lots of endings at the moment, right? It's the end of the year, end of this people powered places cycle. So sort of just wanted to summarize what we've done so far. So we have delivered 8 project clinics, and it's reached 564 of you. So that's either you've come to the session or you've recorded it or watched the recording of it, sorry. There were some project clinics that we said we would deliver, but we delivered them in a slightly different way. So, for example, the second evaluation, monitoring, and learning session we combined with the Our Networks event, and we sent out a recording of the session. And the project sustainability, sorry, I sent around a recording of me summarizing the session. And the project sustainability and legacy, we turned into the Our Connections events where you were able to meet with lots of different funders and partners. And ironically, we put forward the contingency planning when things don't go as planned, and we had planned that for September, and that did not go as planned. We decided not to do it because we just felt it was a bit too late in the cycle. Lots of you were already working really closely with your community neighborhood teams to solve any issues that had come up, and by September, most of them were resolved. So that was a good learning for us. But yeah, wanted to share that with you. Ah, and you should hopefully already know we have the Our Neighbourhoods events scheduled for January. These are taking place in libraries and community centres to celebrate your successes and achievements and what you've been able to deliver over the past year. So we would love it if you could come. You will be getting a briefing from your community neighbourhood very soon about what you need to do to prepare. Um, I'll leave that up for a minute so you can note your date. Um, so yeah, please try and be available. It would be amazing if you could be there. I think Chris is looking. Oh, okay. So again, this is our sort of our neighborhoods theme, which is a continuation of our priorities, our solutions, our projects. So it's your opportunity to share your successes and showcase how you've used People Power Places funding to benefit the community. So you'll be asked to do a 1 minute summary of what you've achieved. And we know that that is really hard to do. So we encourage you to share maybe a statistic or a story or a quote or one of your favorite memories or something that you're proud of to bring your project to life. And then you'll also have a stall to be able to display your achievements. So you can have photos, infographics, a video on a laptop, whatever you'd like. And residents will also be invited to join online and may ask you questions as well. So, yeah, we're really looking forward to seeing you then. And you might want to think about sharing your successes or progress on your new and co-create page. So there's a bit of a blurb about how to do this. We've shared this previously. So we would advise a video of no longer than 3 minutes. Ensure that everyone has completed a photo consent form so that they're happy for it to go online. And think about what you want your story to say, what key messages you want to say in the video. Oh, sorry, I've just realised I've left our projects events in there, but I mean our neighbourhoods. And I can put this onto your project page, and you can send it via WeTransfer for free if it's too large to send over email. So that's another way you can share the successes of your project. I'm just going to pause. Are there any questions about any of that before I hand over to Giulia? Put your hand up, or you can speak, or you can put something in the notes. Dean, I can see you. Yeah.
Yeah, what's happening with the final two payments? We had our original payment of 10,000 and we've completed the wonderful experience of Oracle Fusion and sent in all of our receipts and our monitoring report for the first stage of the project. And we're still waiting on the other two.
Yes. So as I said at the beginning, we can't respond to individual projects.
No, I just wonder if that's a generic thing regarding the
It's not a
lateness of
generic
payments.
thing. It's all on a case-by-case basis. So there are projects that have already completed, and there are projects that are in a similar position to you, Dean. So I
Okay.
would suggest picking up Nadine. Ayan has put. Oh, hi, Ayan. Deadline. No, there's no deadline. But it would be great if it could be before the Our Neighbourhoods event, so that we can sort of refer back to it. Right. I will pass over to Giulia.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I've been told there's a little event going on in the background, so I've been told it's a bit noisy and there's some plinky plonky music. So let me know if you can't hear me at any point, and I will increase my volume. Thank you so much for inviting me today to talk to you. What I'm going to do is look a little bit at, you can go to the next slide, please. Fabulous. Back a bit, please. Thank you. How you can use your evaluation information to create a narrative around the impact of your project. Now, I'm mindful that we have a whole range of different projects here covering different people, different outputs. So I'm going to aim to keep the scope quite wide, but any specific questions or additional advice, feedback you have, please let me know. And I'm also really happy to help outside of this session if there's any specific questions. So next slide, please. So reading through, listening to the last two sessions, I know that there was already some conversation about how to define evidence and inspire people with the work that's happening. And as we're looking at the end of the project and the evaluation side, really, I think the crucial thing here is defining what impact is for you. So what are those core values? So when I talk about comms, I talk about it with 3 keywords, which I've just said. Define. So you identify the difference that you are trying to make to people, to place, to planet, and understanding you sit within the context of a wider system and wider individuals who are working on this project, societal factors, etc. So how does your specific project or program uniquely add value to solving that big problem? So that definition, key and crucial, and then look at that evidence base, which I will come on to talk about slightly later in the presentation, but how are you capturing that difference? Through surveys, conversations, reach, demographic data, benchmarking, and then that final point, which is about inspiring. So the data, you engage the head, and then inspiration, you engage the heart to make people think and feel differently about the issue. So that's where we're looking at assets, looking at amplifying reach and impact, looking at really storytelling through people. Next slide, please. So yeah, what next? So for some of you, I'm sure this will be a mere step in the process. There might be some self-contained projects. You have a beginning, middle, and end. So it's time to kind of close that down, to tell that story and say goodbye. But I'm sure for the majority of you, actually, this is an ongoing area of work. It's a step in your process to solving, tackling, or addressing that bigger problem. This could be also an opportunity to look for partnerships, to work with others to scale that problem, or to look for additional funding streams. So when it comes to telling that story, it might be about demonstrating the value when it comes to seeking additional funding. Or it might be a case of this project was tested and actually realized the scope and scale wasn't quite what you wanted. So actually you're going to realign those efforts and look to do something different, but actually this project could inform what that future direction might look like. So those are some really key things to consider when it comes to starting to tell that story through the evidence pool that you've gathered and those stories. So next slide. So I know this is a bit of a wordy slide, but what I had a go at doing was scoping out what I would consider some of the key audiences and stakeholder groups that you may or may not find valuable, relevant to the work that you're doing. So how I tend to divide audiences is you have the B2G, so that's government, funders, so either your current funders, your future funders, or you might want to be talking to your local council, to other government or civic organisations to kind of tell those stories of change and impact. When it comes to the B2B, the business community, education providers, that might be delivery partners and people you've worked with. That might be peers that you want to look at knowledge sharing, gathering case studies to communicate through. There may be future collaborators. As I said, if you're looking to scale in the future, are there other like-minded organisations you could see natural points of connection with? Other charities or not-for-profit groups that do something similar or that you could see teaming up with to really add value? Or are there students, educators, or other individuals within that sector, either that you could kind of give learning to, gather learning from, or make the case to work with in the future, or showcase what's been achieved? And then you have that B2C, so customers, beneficiaries and recipients, and also communities and community groups. So obviously there's that pool of project beneficiaries that you may wish to communicate and talk to kind of summarize and tell them what's happened, which they'll obviously know about, and give them opportunities to share or contribute to building that storytelling and that narrative. Potential future beneficiaries, if there's a project that's going to continue and grow. Local communities, so those around you. As Anna said, there's opportunities to share in the Our Neighbourhoods events, but to really demonstrate and talk to people about what's been happening in the neighbourhoods through your projects. Members of the public, bit of a no-brainer, but that one also could relate to the online audiences. So people you might want to reach that you aren't necessarily going to see day to day in the street. And future volunteers, similar to future beneficiaries, anyone that you'd like to contribute to the project in the future, or people you think could be really valuable to come in and help support and enable that project to succeed. And then finally, press and digital. So obviously there are things like local print, local press. There might be some great stories. You might have some brilliant beneficiaries, spokespeople, people that have come to the forefront through the work that you've been doing that you think could be great candidates to tell a larger story around societal challenges, around learning, the benefit of learning and skills, or a very specific local story. Then if you're looking at something which is more skills based, there's trade press opportunities, and often the trade press is really excited to get something quite niche, something that puts a different spin on a story. You've of course got national broadcasts and those large scale pieces, and then in terms of online social influencers, micro influencers, people who are very much located in either the local space or specifically focused on the issues that you're addressing, that could be able to amplify the reach and impact of what you've done, who could become advocates in the future for you. And that's always a really great way to, get future funding if you have these guys on board. Next slide, please. I forgot I wasn't driving. So the considerations here, who are they? So why they're interested in your project and what they're going to need from you when it comes to telling that story of change and impact. Are they people that are going to be more inspired by data, facts, statistics, or are they people that are going to be more inspired by case studies, films, stories of change and impact? If it's an online audience, how can you make that quite bite-sized for them? And then what they need from you, when do they need it by? So if you're looking at things like funding cycles and future funding, ensuring those deadlines are all lined up, how they can help you. So as I said, with that online community, potentially that's about amplifying reach, that's about sharing, or if there's people that you can see to give good quotes to you, to be spokespeople or to give funding, and then where they can see it. So that's just about choosing the right channels, making sure that if you are looking to speak to members and local community members, do you have access to local WhatsApp groups? Are you going to go into the libraries and talk to people? Or if it's a wider online audience, making sure that you're looking at the right channels to capture and talk to them. And it's worth defining from that previous list who are those primary audiences that you want to talk to, because obviously you can't talk to everyone, and then looking at who are those secondary audiences. So who are you going to prioritize? Because I'm mindful that time and resource and budget is going to be limited. Next slide, please. So this one's just about spokespeople. Really, as I'm sure you know, and will come no surprise to anyone, people have less and less faith and confidence in institutions and messaging around faceless messaging. So if you can have a person communicate on your behalf, you are far more likely to get people to believe that authentic story and to want to engage with it. So who is it that can tell that story of change and impact for you? It could be that you yourself or within your group or organization have some great spokespeople and really compelling voices who can speak about the project. Are there volunteers who have been on a journey or have a unique perspective to share when it comes to talking about that change and impact? And ditto beneficiaries. That's a really compelling tool for change and demonstrating impact. And it could also be an opportunity to get in touch a couple of months down the line, to check in with people, to see what change has happened since the end of the project, or other delivery partners who would be able to communicate and talk on your behalf about what's happened and what's been achieved. Next slide, please. Quick wins, always like to put these in here because, as I said, I'm mindful of time, capacity and impact. So for me, I had to look through the evaluation forms. See, there's a number of key fields there which you can mine and expand out when it comes to telling those stories or trying to get key information. So there's the outcome frameworks, which I know Newham has, which also lists different types of outcome and can connect those back to bigger societal issues or other strategies that are happening. Wider research and statistics related to your project, whether that's environmental impact, whether that's upskilling young people. So if you can tie to those external moments or research and work that other people have done that can demonstrate that value and evidence it, so much the better. What other projects are similar to you, even if they're not local, might be national, international examples? What are they doing? And what can you learn and nick from them, adapt to help show what your value is and how you uniquely add value to this issue? Make the ask clear for people that you are looking to engage. So maybe that's a case of saying, please, can you share this? Can you send us your thoughts? We'd like to get you to ask your community if they can sign up and engage with X. Create a very simple comms pack that people can use to help share those words. So, write everything for them. So all they need to do is cut and paste in and press send, or give them a direct person that they can speak to if they have questions or if they have comments or want to contribute. Look for key external moments that you can tie any communications you're doing to. So I have a whole list of national and international days, which I'll be very happy to share with you. Things like National Parks Week, things like skills for young people, International Women's Day, these moments where the online and offline world are looking at specific issues that may be relevant to the work you're doing, and it just makes it a lot easier to get that amplification and momentum when it comes to storytelling. And finally, I don't need to tell you, but make it manageable. If it's just a case of picking a specific moment where you want to showcase everything that's happened and you want to put your time and energy into that, absolutely fine. If you want to create a single document that then you send out to different people, absolutely fine. If you believe that there's more potential in having kind of 2 or 3 smaller, little and often ways to communicate, or a series of small case studies that could be rolled out, then that makes sense for you. Then that's the right approach, and that's a great approach. Next slide, please. So what I've had a look at here, talking about the define, evidence, inspire. First of all, looking at the evidence. So in terms of the data, what are the main outputs of the project? I know that within the evaluation framework, you had things like the local priorities and how they were being met, data and statistics on those project beneficiaries. So the total participants, demographics, money spent and impact as a result, or any sort of quirky or unexpected outputs. Did you have, X amount of people came who you didn't expect to, or you had if it's a natural project, you had an incredible influx of a species of plant or a species of animal that you didn't expect. Those little fun kind of hooks can sometimes be really valuable in bringing that story to life. On the right there, I've just shared a series of infographics that we have in our community toolkit, my colleague Ronak put together. So it's a really nice way of being able to demonstrate in very clear bite-sized chunks where that value lies. So if you go to the next page, just showing you how and different ways in which the data can be used. So as I said, the data is all about engaging the head. So using free online tools, things like Canva, you can create some really beautiful and vibrant infographics, using icons just to tie people, to give people a visual cue, especially people that aren't speaking English as a first language, for example, telling that story of the data through visuals. Graphs and charts, of course, especially if you're looking at creating something more formal in terms of a report. Mapping. So you can use things like Miro boards or Google Maps to create maps, which can show obviously on neighborhood level any change and impact, and then equivalent X amount of, X amount of carbon saved, X amount of people, draw things into equivalencies, this many pints of water, all of those different ones. And there's online tools that can help you to calculate, to make something relevant for the people who might be reading and absorbing that information. And then always don't let that data ever sit outside of the context of the story you're trying to tell. So always link it back to that heart, to that definition, to that story of change and impact. Next slide. So on to the stories. So really this is about how the project that you've been working on has made a difference. What were those outcomes? How were they met? What were those positive changes that came about as a result that if you hadn't existed and hadn't done it, wouldn't have been achieved? What are the challenges you faced? So this is, again, taken from the evaluation framework. It's more authentic, and people like an authentic story. So if you're just presenting something which is all success, people aren't necessarily going to buy into that in the same way they are if you're demonstrating challenges which you overcame. Of course, that's a great story, but also sometimes things don't go to plan, and it's okay to share that as well. Highlights of the program. Personal highlights are always great. So again, going back to those spokespeople, saying to them, what was your personal highlight and what really did you feel came from this that was the highlight for you? And then recommendations for the future, obviously when it comes to people powered places, but also potentially recommendations for members of the community or people who are working in this area, that you would have the opportunity to potentially advise people on future projects, or you could be a really valuable connector to other people working on similar types of project in the future. Next slide, please. Oh, there we go. I've just made a list of some of the different ways in which you can kind of showcase those stories. So some of you may want to create sort of a report or a microsite which just kind of would clearly take the evaluation framework and just put it online, bring it to life with images, with case studies, things like that. You could look at a series of different case studies. They can be quite small and bite-sized. They don't need to be too technical or in-depth, just very clearly outlining that kind of who, what, where, when, why, how of the project. Beautiful quote, nice image. And that's not only something which can be put into future bids or future funding applications, but can be used across socials, can be used for recipients and beneficiaries of the programme for themselves if they then want to go forward and do more training or to talk about what they've achieved. Blogs and interviews. Of course, interviews in the press, really valuable, but then when it comes to just writing really nice, snappy Q&As or summaries of what's happened, and there's examples of that on the Royal Docs website if you ever want any kind of tips and frameworks. Film and photography, of course, really compelling tools for engaging people, especially when it comes to those online audiences. Feedback and quotes. I mean, quotes are always a gift. And even if it's just single words, you could create word clouds with single keywords. This helps to tie people back to and understand the language and the values at the heart of what's happened. And then creative outputs, poetry, art, anything that, again, is going to really grab people's attention and stand out and set you apart from other projects of this kind. Events, there's always opportunities for Q&As, opportunities for kind of in conversations, or invite people along just to kind of chat or share knowledge on what's happened and why it mattered and demonstrate that value. And then in terms of that online audience, socials and campaigns, obviously more relevant if you're looking to continue the project, if you're looking to scale it, or if you're looking to kind of amplify and tell stories, tying back to key external events, for example. Next slide, please. So these are some useful tools that I've just kind of grabbed, asked my team to contribute to. I'm sure some of these will be on your agenda, your radar already. So Canva is a really great tool when it comes to just creating templates that look great, to be honest with you. And they can be used for socials, they can be used for case studies, reports, posters. I really would always recommend this. And there's a free version, obviously limited, but I think you can do most of what you need to do with it. Google Alerts, if you don't do those, is a really smart way just to type in those keywords. So if any noise online is happening around the work that you've done, or like-minded funding streams, if you want to get more funding in the future, you can set Google Alerts for those, and it's just a really good way of getting that information to come to you. Bitly, link shortener, and then you can track links, you can track online conversations, you can also generate QR codes there. MailChimp is an email marketing, so I'm sure you know, but that also can be a really useful database because you can upload email addresses and you can put demographic data in there, download reports really easily, and that's valuable. WhatsApp actually had a meeting here last week at the GLA saying that they're going to be using WhatsApp a lot more. And when it comes to community channels and that hyperlocal, there's so much value in utilising those. Broadcast channels as well. And as I put below, voice notes. The voice notes feature I find is something so valuable. Obviously, you have those on your phone, but via WhatsApp, if you just want to do a mini interview with someone, grab feedback with them, you can transcribe it later. Or if you're sort of out and about and you know just want to capture some thoughts, it's such a valuable way of just not losing those pieces of feedback and qualitative information, which can sometimes just float away if not. Eventbrite and Luma, if you are looking at holding events, these are really valuable tools for capturing that data and making sure you can log and track individuals. and then things like free pick and unsplash. If you need imagery, obviously if you've got it and you've got all your forms signed, wonderful, but if you want to find some free or low cost imagery to add to reports or to showcase, and any others, obviously really happy to add here. Other kind of things to consider if you wanted to translate anything, or if there's local people in the community that you know could help to translate or be a second pair of eyes. And if you're looking for paid for services, negotiating, if you wanted to do print with local printers or local designers, is always valuable for not having to sort of pay lots and lots for those things. Next slide. Finally, very useful tool, we're here. So Royal Docs, we are always looking to tell stories of change and impact. So we have our People and Stories feature. We have our Meet the Dockers, which is a series where we showcase individuals, organisations and causes who are doing incredible things and really embody the essence of the Royal Docs. And whether the projects are over or not, that doesn't stop the people being incredible. So we would always be interested in talking to you and looking how we can feature you. We have a monthly newsletter which we send out and has really good open and click rates. So again, if your project's continuing, if there are other aspects to the work you're doing, please let us know and get in touch with us. And we're always really happy to amplify things across our socials. And that's it. So, thank you for listening. Any questions, please let me know. Another drink now. Stop talking.
Thank you so much, Giulia. That was really informative. And you've given me ideas for how we can promote our neighbourhoods as well. There was a question in the chat from Daniel saying what support is available to get access to press and digital stakeholders. Do you have any pointers on that?
I think for me, what I would advise is just looking at what those local press channels are that you could talk to. I think it's just about understanding those. So it probably would just be a quick Google, but looking and talking to local press. And then when it comes to digital or hyper local, similar. I mean, we in the Royal Docs don't have a press presence, very sadly. So we actually rely on GLA and freelancers to do that for us. But my advice would always be look and target local as much as possible, because that's when you're more likely to get that pickup. And as I said, with influencers, micro influencers, a fancy way to say people that don't have lots of followers, but the followers they have are very passionate about the specific issues they're putting forward. So if we went onto a social media channel and sort of put Newham plus nature, Newham plus street art, Newham plus, you'll find people that come up that could be good targets to talk to, that could maybe help to just share what you're doing with their audiences.
Perfect. Thank you. Are there any other questions? You can use the hands up function or you can unmute yourself. Physical hand up.
And also, like I said, very happy if you want to send me an email afterwards. If you want to, I'm really happy to sort of answer any questions after this as well.
Do you want to put your email in the chat? Just thought, I'm not sure if it's on that last slide actually. Okay, I have an apology to make to all of you as well. I got the timings wrong for this sesh, so we've got 50 minutes left. I think we're good on time. Sorry, letting someone in. I'm going to keep it moving unless there are any other questions. Okay, right. Well, let's look at the evaluation form then. So hopefully most of you are ready to complete your final evaluation form. It is split into a few sections, so I've just broken it down into each bit, and Julia has kindly woven in some of her thoughts about the evaluation form as well. So that was really helpful for me. And so obviously starting off with the main bits about yourself. So the name of the organization if you are a VCFS led project, name of yourselves and the name of your project, and the total amount of the grant awarded. So we are clear. And then the main outputs of the project. So again, 300 words. Sorry, not again. There are lots of 300 words. So thinking about what have you achieved, what have you done? So has it been delivering weekly activities for the past 6 months? Has it been delivering an event once a quarter? Have you um, done an installation or improved a community asset? So it might have been, I know that there was like a street lighting one in Forest Gate. So think about, well, please share what you have done. And you might want to include photos to really bring that to life for us. We love photos, but again, please ensure you have consent to share. And the second question is around local priorities. So thinking about the local priorities of your neighborhood, we know that your project doesn't necessarily have to align with all three of them, but please break down how your project has helped meet these priorities. And as a general guideline, you could do 100 words per priority. I do want to say at this section that I notice a lot of people starting to use ChatGPT for this, which is fine. It is a really useful tool to assist you, but I would say not to rely on it wholly because it starts to feel a bit hollow. I can tell when it's been written by ChatGPT because it writes it in a very formulaic way, and I start to think, how real is this? Like, is this what you've achieved, or is this like ChatGPT's glossy version of it? So, by all means, use it to help you come up with ideas and generate ways of saying something that you can't quite put into words, but do make sure that it is real what you are sharing. Um, Next slide, please. So this piece is really useful in terms of who we want to know your reach and who you've engaged with. So, how many people have you reached in total? I've recently seen an evaluation form that said 300 people a week. And that's not very useful for us to know. What would be useful for us to know is how many people altogether, because that 300 people a week, that might be 300 new people every week, and that reach is incredible. Or it could be the same 300 people a week. And again, that's also an incredible reach, but that it's really useful to break it down, whether it's, the same people or new people. How many volunteers you've worked with is really useful for us to know. If you've captured demographic data, which we hope you have, I've been reviewing this, and actually it's much more useful to have it in full numbers than percentages. Obviously, if you have percentages rather than full numbers, please put that in. That is also really useful for us to know. And we've broken down the demographic data by gender, age, ethnicity, and disability. I just couldn't fit that all in the screenshot. And we've also asked for this information in monitoring form 1, so it's really building on that to help us build a picture of how you've reached residents and the wider community across your project. Next slide, please. Right. So, Julia was talking about this in her bit of the presentation, but what were the main outcomes of the project? So, how has it made a difference? And what difference has it made to your area, to residents, or to the wider community? And what were the positive changes to the community neighbourhood? You might want to include quotes or testimonials from residents who are part of the project. You might want to include some stats if you've gathered that. So it could be 90% of residents involved reported higher levels of confidence after taking part in the project. So it depends on what sort of information you've gathered and if you've been able to capture that at the beginning and at the end to capture that movement. But anything to bring it to life, bring your project to life would be really valuable in this space. And echoing what Julia said, we know that things don't go to plan, so please be honest about the challenges you face and how you've overcome them. And anything that wasn't met, and this isn't to, look at the bad stuff. It's to learn and to grow. And it's also to share. So we know that that approach might not have worked, and if there is a future cycle of people power places, someone else might want to take the similar thing, and we can say, oh, actually, we've learned from this approach that this project that approach didn't quite work. You might want to meet up with this person to find out how they overcame it. So it's all building our knowledge of how to best work in the community. So please don't be afraid of the challenges bit. I think that's the bit that we grow the most from. Next slide, please. And this is about people power places. So what has worked well? You might want to include your favorite memory or what the program's helped you achieve. And also, again, learning for us, we always want to improve. I think a lot of you have been part of people power places over a few cycles, and you know how we change and we iterate. It's because of your feedback that we are able to strengthen this program every time. So honesty is always welcome here. Next slide. And then please include your grant total and any other sources of income for the project, for your specific project. So you might have had other grants. That's really useful for us to know. And then please include, I'm sure you know this already, every single expense, every receipt that you have spent funding on. And you can put it for for the third installment of funding. We let's be upfront about this. We know this takes time. We know it's hard work, but these are public funds, and this program is really heavily audited. So that's why we need evidence of how all the funds are being spent. But yeah, we completely also understand that it is a lot of work. Next slide, please. Oh, I think click it again because I did an animation. So this is a reminder that all projects need to be completed by the 31st of December. If that isn't possible, please speak to your community neighbourhood team and we can try. We want to work with you to complete your project as much as you can, and it will be done on a case-by-case basis. What can be done? Sorry, I didn't explain that very clearly. Any extensions will be discussed on a case-by-case basis, but there is very minimal wiggle room for that. So I'm going to open the floor. Are there any? I feel like I whizzed through that. So are there any questions? Anything? Sorry, I've also got two screens going on, so you're all on this screen, and my camera's on this screen.
Can I just also reiterate about the evaluation form to everyone, how important it is for us, especially. I think you probably may have heard of the council's position and its financial difficulties at the moment. And they'll be looking at all sorts of funding, including NSIL funding as well, whether they want to continue these programs on as well. So it's really important for us to demonstrate to the cabinet or council that this program is worthwhile keeping in the future. So this is why it's really important that we get all your evaluation forms back, because we need to produce a report to say, look, this is had what the impact we've had in the community. This is the projects that have been going on, and this is the reach that we've had. So it's I know it's the last bit of paperwork for you guys, and you might think, oh, hang on, I've already finished my projects. What's the point? There is a reason behind it, and it's a really important reason. It's because we want to prove our worth for this program, and to actually show all the great work that you guys have been doing and how it's impacting the community. So please, 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 it's really important that you get that final piece of paperwork back to us. Yeah.
Chris, yes, second that very strongly. Right, questions. Abel, go
Yes,
for it.
just a quick one. And as you know, we in our project, we are involved in producing the case studies, taking part on the case studies.
Mm.
I've done one case study. Um, how how many more is there? I know there's another one request was given to me, and we tried to meet a few times. Obviously, we didn't manage that. Um, uh, how important is that to do the actual? Is it 4 or 3, or how many is it altogether?
Yeah. So at the beginning, I thought
I
there
know
was
you said it.
3.
Yes. Yeah.
So I have done 2 with some of the projects, and I just think the third one I'm going to capture from the evaluation forms because otherwise I
Ah,
just feel like it's duplicating.
no, I
So
get you.
again, that
Yeah.
is me learning and thinking actually what works for you, what works for us.
No, I get you.
But yes, you did get back in touch with me and I didn't follow up because I was in the middle of writing the report. So thank you for the reminder and I'll get back to you.
No
Let
worries.
me write
So,
that down.
so shall we say one more and that's it then?
Yes, let's do that.
Yeah.
um, just for everyone else. Oh, Dean, I'm just going to put you on mute because I can hear background noise. We picked out some projects to be case studies to sort of have a closer view of their journey and experience of delivering the program, their project, um, at the beginning, middle, and end. So a few projects have been doing that. So Abel was one of them, but we only managed to do one. But we will do our second one. So thank you for that. Any other questions? Abel, do you mind if I put you on mute? Just because I don't know, I'm getting some funny feedback.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Feel free to use the hands up function. Put your hand up, come off mute, whatever works for you. We've got till 7 o'clock now, so this is your time to really ask the questions that you want to know. Which camera am I looking? Okay, I can move you all here. There are some excellent. Oh, Dean, do you want to say what you've written or?
Yeah, I've put something in the chat. I discussed it with Chris earlier in the week at the Asper's Good Causes seminar. There's some really excellent research out there online, and going back to what Giulia said about if you can put your area and things in contact. So I've just jotted down a few. Newham Info, which you just Google, and it tells you about Newham as a whole. But importantly for our projects, that you can drill down to a ward level and find out how your ward is. And you may have seen in the slides that came up earlier with Giulia, Custom House has got a huge number of people in it. Canning Town South's got hardly anyone. So in your community neighbourhood, we find it's useful to be able to draw down that very specific information to your own community neighbourhood when you're explaining what you're doing with your projects. House of Commons Library is very good, and there are now 3 constituencies in Newham. So depending on where you are, you can find out very micro data called LSOIs, lower super output areas, that really tell you a lot. Joseph Rowntree Foundation report Destitution in the UK explains how Newham went from being in 2019 the 11th most destitute borough in the country to being the first. And that isn't anything to do with us. That was just the impact of COVID lockdowns and cost of living crisis. There's a great report. It's a couple of years out of date, but it's really interesting, called Faith in Newham. And I'll put some more in the chat. So if anyone's interested in those things, they can have a look up. Otherwise, just contact us and we'll point you in the right direction.
That's super useful, Dean. I'm definitely going to be looking at that Joseph Rowntree Foundation one. Thank you. David, I saw that you came on camera and then went again, so I'm wondering if that was a question. Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Good evening. Yeah. Now, in terms of providing receipts for all the activities, if you make salary payments, how do you want that reflected?
Great question.
Because it's going through the payroll, the organization's payroll already. So how do you
Are you able to
reflect
share
that?
that? I mean, okay,
Like without
we
sharing the organization's payroll necessarily,
does
it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, I'm gonna just answer because I think others may also have this question, but I'm also looking at James because I know that you work for a big organization or your place, and I'm wondering if you might have the same issue and have the answer
Can you just repeat the issue, Anna?
about paying. Do you pay people through people powered places? And if
Yeah.
so, how do you evidence that? Is that through like the payroll or pay slips,
Yeah,
etc.?
salary. Yeah.
Yeah, we do. We have like a finance department. I mean, we're in a different position, I think, as a relatively medium-sized organization, but we have a finance department that provides invoices relating to sort of expenditure, revenue expenditure that the grant is used for.
Okay. So my question, David, is are the people fully paid through people powered places? Like are they employed just to work on this project or does it contribute to some of their salary?
Yeah, it's for the project,
Yeah,
but
okay.
then placed on payroll
So I know,
because it's a regular payment. So
yeah, so some, because I used to be a senior officer, so I used to receive some pay slips or sort of a screenshot of the person's name and that salary, so I could see the line. I didn't need to see a breakdown or anything like that. So that was useful. Is that possible?
yeah, that's doable.
Yeah. Okay,
Mm.
perfect.
I've seen things like with screenshots and redacted information. If you're trying to avoid unnecessary viewing of other information that is not related to places, then you can always redact that in black. If
Yeah.
it's yeah.
Great. Does that
Okay.
answer your question, David?
Okay. Yeah, it does.
Great.
Thank you.
No worries. I can see Sandra's comment that her last event is on the 24th. If you could send it in by the 31st, that would be great, but we totally understand that it's a really busy time. So in the first week or so of January would be fab, if that's possible. Yeah, completely understand that like between Christmas and New Year's, no one wants to work. So that's fine, but let's have a look at dates. If by the 17th of Jan, if that's possible, that would be great. James, okay, perfect. Thank you, Sandra. James, you came off mute. Did you have a question?
No.
Oh, okay. No worries then. Daniel, I can see your hands up.
Hi, Ada. Thank you, and thanks, Julia, as well for the presentation. I have a question around evaluation in terms of picking up any lessons for anyone who was involved in this process. Is that something that's been planned for maybe early next year for the project leads and the organizers to do an evaluation to discuss and explore key lessons, whether good or bad, and also things to improve for next time? That's my first question. The second question I have, which I think you've kind of clarified as case by case basis, as in all projects should be completed by the end of this year. For my case, we received the funding a bit later than expected. So that meant we had a knock-on impact on the start date of the delivery for the project. And in that case means that, everything's shifted. So in order to complete everything we've planned, some of the stuff would lean into January next year. My question is around whether we can make payments to our suppliers and organize everything, and then have the final delivery of that part of the work stream in January. So specifically, it's delivering mental health first aid trainer courses to people in the community. We've identified a supplier and we're awaiting payment in order to make that payment to the supplier. But because it's December, you know, everyone's time is going to be quite difficult to get them down for the course. So yeah, just wondering if it'd be possible to make payment, secure it, and then on paper we've completed and we can make sort of evaluation information about that and the impact and then report that in January. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Daniel, which neighborhood are you in?
Plasto.
Cool. My first thought is to speak with Natasha about it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't like to say now because I don't have the full details of your
Look, I
project,
appreciate
but
that.
it doesn't sound out of the realm of possibility.
Okay.
We know like what an amazing jobs and impact and value you all bring to the community, and we don't want to be the people to say, well, no, you can't do good things in your community anymore. But we also need to be realistic about like the grant agreement and our timeframes and all the rest of it. So there's a bigger picture to consider. So I don't want to say no or yes, but like let's talk about it, and I can pick that up with Natasha too.
Can I just add that because we're in the same boat as well. But to be fair, payments were supposed to be made to us in January. By the time I got my payment, it was March.
Yeah.
That's 3 months
So,
delayed. So obviously, it's going to have a knock-on effect on a big project like that. We're delivering. It's a huge project, you know. Now, obviously, it's going to have a knock-on effect. But I've made arrangements with my local person, and they informally agreed for extension, but obviously they have to do it formally. So I've sent the formal request, and I'm still waiting for the formal approval for the extension. You know, but yeah, that's the reason why I think a lot of people were in the same boat. You know, payments were made, fairly late. 2 months, 3 months. That's
yeah.
has a knock-on effect.
Yeah, we know, we hear that, and I think that is a learning for the program. And if we were to get funding again, we were to do the program again, I think we would factor that in.
Mm.
So that is heard loud and clear. But again, I would say speak to your community neighborhood senior officer. Chris and I, we meet with them on a fortnightly basis, so we do sort of know where all the projects are at, and we want to work with you to deliver, whilst also within our timescales, and
Yeah, I understand.
there is some negotiation. Let's put it
Yeah.
that way.
But
Daniel,
we understand as well that some projects can spend. I mean, you can spend if you're planning your workshops or your events and things. You can, I guess, spend ahead of that time, like you said. Is it Daniel? And if you need to put things in place to complete the delivery of your project now, basically spend the money,
Okay.
that's fine as well. So you just need to, yeah, obviously it's a case by case basis. So yeah, just get those conversations going, please, with your senior officers in your neighborhood teams, just so you put a plan in place for your expenditure. Because that's one. There's two things: that you spend the money, and there's another thing. Some people will finish their projects later after spending the money as well. So there's almost kind of two dates, isn't it? So you've got the final payment, and when your last, pretty much your last day of delivery of your project is. And then for us, there's a third stage of when we receive your evaluation form as well. So that's our side of the completion of your project as well. So yeah, there's a few steps to go, but yeah, speak to your neighborhood teams in terms of spending your money and releasing your money as well.
Okay. I think in our case, we've actually delivered everything we said we will. This is an above and beyond
Okay.
to help us
Okay.
cover
Yeah.
the other things. Yeah.
Okay. Good news. That's great.
and Daniel, just to go to your first question about lessons learned, we did do some focus groups in September time with a couple of project leads, and there was a survey that went out as well. And then there was also a drop-in session at the Our Connections event. So we felt that we put in a lot of opportunities for people to feedback, and the evaluation form also tries to capture any feedback that you have as well. So yeah, if you have any thoughts that you would like to share, feel free to put that into the evaluation form if you haven't used any others. And those experiences have been fed into the 2020, hold on, 2025-27 recommendations if we were to get another cycle. And yeah, no, the end. But yeah, if there was a general feeling of wanting a sort of wrap up session with project leads, then please get in touch with us and let us know, and that's something we could consider.
Thank you. That's useful. I mean, at the risk of creating more work and more meetings for people, I don't want to do that, but I haven't been cited on those engagements, so I'll have a chat with my senior officer and feedback through that process.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other questions? I can see Dean's put another few resources in. I think I'm going to try and be clever. And if I copy and paste them into a Word document very quickly, and then I can try and send these out with the notes. And obviously, Dean, we will credit you as being the font of all knowledge. Just try. So, Julia, just to share that I did pick up your comment as well about you also experiencing late payment. Any other questions? And the date, please. The date for which, Sandra? Sending back. I think still the 17th of Jan, but if it goes on further, then we can still. Oh, you want me to put the date? Okay. I know that different neighborhoods are saying different things. Again, a case by case basis, but I think mid-Jan is reasonable if you need that extension. Okay. Oh, go on, Daniel.
Just a reflection. Are there any plans to, because sometimes, after a project's been delivered, you see the benefits maybe months or a year or so after the delivery of that. Are there any plans to, I guess, get in touch with project leads or the community to check in on them, see how they're doing, provide any support, further support, and collect more feedback and data on outcomes and impact?
That has definitely been thought about, but I wouldn't like to confirm what that is until we have secured another round of People Power Places funding. So it's a watch the space kind of answer. Sorry not to be more definitive.
But I would encourage, I mean, if you're happy to do so, do keep in touch with your neighborhood teams and keep that great work going. We'll kind of, I'm sure they'll pass on messages on sort of other support mechanisms for you and other funding avenues as well, as we receive that sort of information as well. But yeah, I would encourage everyone, please keep it, very close contact with your neighbour teams. I think it's kind of a joint effort whether we have more funding for this program or not. Yeah.
And Daniel, as you said, I think it's that tricky balance of us really wanting to know that, but also not wanting to create more work for you. So like thinking about when's a useful time to gather that. So always learning if anyone has any thoughts. I mean, Dean, the comment that you've put, yes, Oracle Fusion is difficult. Was that the main barrier for people, or were there other barriers in place? Well, Dean, you're on mute.
Barrier was the technical system and the way it's set up. I mean, I've got a background in working with financial systems and computing and thing. Without doubt, it is the worst I've ever seen in my life. It's absolutely appalling. And the people who installed it didn't provide proper instructions to the staff who had to operate it, but they have upgraded the supplier's user guide now, and that's made things a lot better. But it is notoriously difficult to use. And that in my opinion, was the real problem. It was nothing to do with the community-enabled staff. It was just a really bad tool. And we've all had experiences with computers that haven't worked as well as they should have done. So I just want to make clear, it's nothing to do with Merdine. She's gone above and beyond to help us. And it was a great learning process. Now we often advise other people on how to fill in raise their invoices and get things approved and all the rest of it. But well, Chris knows from experience in the past, it's been a slow and painful learning process, but we're happy to help anyone else.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you.
I think we'll have to factor that in, that little period of time at the beginning of each delivery.
Work, yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any other comments, thoughts, reflections? Thank you, Abel. Great to see you. Or we can wrap up early. Or if you need to go, feel free. If you've got questions, feel free to stay. We do have a little QR code. Do you want to put that on the screen, Chris? We'd be really grateful for any feedback. As we say, we're always learning. Your feedback's really useful, and I'll send the link round in the email I send. Send link. Writing it down. Oh, thanks for coming, Sandra. Glad you found it useful.
We hope to see you in January anyway. So that'll be our last event, sadly, for the cycle. So it'll be good to see everyone. It'll be really nice if everyone could come and have a stall, and then we could celebrate properly the whole 2 years and your achievements so far and all the great work you've contributed towards your community. So yeah, I mean, if I don't see you, thank you so much from me. But yeah, any last words? There's lots of comments going.
Yeah, if anyone's interested in the previous cycle, we found that the Community Assembly Evaluation Report 21 to 23 was really useful. It's available on the council website.
Thank you, Dean. We've
Yeah.
got one in the works for 23-25 coming once we've oh no, it says
Just to say thank you really, because these sessions have been actually very useful, very impactful, informative. We have opportunity to ask questions and correct any mistakes that we may have made. I think it's really very, very useful, and thank you for having this. I think it should be something that needs to be done if we're having this again next year. I think it's one of the good practices you need to put in place. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Great. Thank you, David. Yeah, I think we agree. We think that these have worked.
Yeah, not a lot of grant programs do this, do they? They'll just give you the money and tell you to get on with it.
Yeah.
And I think the benefit as well is that we've recorded all of these and put them on YouTube, so you can refer back to them. And if we were to get another cycle, we've already got a bank of really useful resources available. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Well, again, if there's anything else, any other questions, feel free to stay and ask. But if not, you're free to leave.
Sorry, just to ask again, Anna. You said all of this is actually on YouTube.
We will be uploading, sorry, going back, all the project clinics are on YouTube, and we will be uploading this to YouTube as well.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you'll get an
Nigel, do you
email
want-
from Anna
Oh, yeah.
soon with the links, YouTube link. Yeah.
Nigel, would it be useful to send round the previous ones and links as well?
All help will be welcome.
Cool. I'll try and do that. Send links from brief sessions. Cool.
And I'll just add, same with the my experience has been you guys have really been bending over backwards to try and help us along with this. So from where I come from, I'm very grateful. Many thanks.
Oh, thank you so much. It
That means a lot.
Oh,
Yeah, I think we work very hard, but you never quite know how things are landing. So it's great to know that they've landed well.
brilliant. That's lovely. Right.
Okay.
Thank you
Final
very much. I'm going to
question.
log off.
I was going to say I'm going to nip home now because I'm tired.
Fair enough, Sandra.
Fair
Thank you
enough.
for staying.
Take care,
Right, I'm
everyone.
going to bring this to an end. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, and have a lovely evening.
Bye-bye.
Many thanks, one and all. Have a good
happy
evening.
holiday, everybody.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Happy
New
holiday.
Year.
Happy holidays in the new year. Yeah.
Yes.
Take care.
Everybody.
Bye.
See you in the new year. Bye-bye.
Take
Cheers
care.
now. Bye-bye.
Bye.